Hello everybody, welcome to the very second tutorial of saricden.github.io. There will be a link to my blog in the description, as well as a link, or just a link, to the written post, the written version of this post. So if you prefer reading over watching a video, be sure to check that out. Today's video, we're going to be implementing a native share functionality using JavaScript alone. This is pretty cool because what this enables you to do is have a button or some element on your page that the user taps on their phone, and it opens up the native share dialog unique to each operating system. This is now a feature that's supported across iOS, Android, and Samsung browsers. So even though it only has about a 50-something% browser share, that's just because the desktop browsers haven't implemented it because it doesn't really make sense for them to. So, with that said, I think that's enough of a reason to jump right in and get going. So, first thing we're going to do today is throw down some HTML. So before we do anything, we'll just create an index file. There we go. HTML5, we'll just use that preset. So now, it's really simple to do this actually. What we're going to do is we're first going to create a button that will be the button they press to, activate the share dialog. We're going to pass in a data URL as an attribute, which is just going to be the URL of your site, and you can put this in with whatever blog software or CMS or whatever you're using. So in this case, I'm just going to hard code it, and we'll set it to localhost 8000. Throw an HTTP on there for good measure, even though obviously no one's actually going to be sharing this. And then we're also going to throw on a data title attribute, and we'll just call it document, because that matches the title, whatever. You could be a little bit fancier than this and like grab all those things with JavaScript, but I like to give the flexibility of putting attributes on, just because if you're using a CMS or something, you might not necessarily want it to go to the current page. You might be showing a share button on a little post snippet or something. You know what I mean? So we'll say share this. That's what the button will say. And then what we're also going to do is we're going to put a fallback. And this is what's going to show on the desktop browsers when there isn't support for the share dialog. So what we'll do is we'll just keep it really simple. We'll say share this link, and we'll say put a break line for good measure, why not? href equals dot, and dot just refers to the current page. We'll say http://localhost port 8000. And so that just gives them something that they're able to copy easily on a desktop and just, share it that way. Now, after we've got our HTML in place, we're going to put in a little bit of styling. Again, I'm going to leave the major styling of the components up to you because you have to make it fit your blog or app's theme. In this case, I'm just showing you the functionality, so it doesn't really make sense for me to get into the styling too much. But what we are going to do with some CSS is we're going to hide both of them. Fallback and share button display none. So what this is going to do is initially this is just going to hide both of them. So let's test what we got so far. I'm just going to use the simple node web server, whatever it's called, just to boot up a little web server. And we'll head over to localhost port 8000. And as expected, we see nothing. It's complaining about not having a favicon, but we can just ignore that. So now, because we have both a share button and a share fallback, we're going to have to implement a little bit of feature sniffing to decide when and where to show which elements. So for that, also this probably goes without saying at this point, but it should be noted that it would be rare that you would have all of this stuff in one file. It makes a lot more sense to split up your CSS and your JavaScript and stuff into separate files. I'm probably preaching to the choir, but you get what I'm saying. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a reference to the document's share button that we created earlier. And we're going to do the same with the share fallback. Alright, so now that we got that, we're going to say if the share button exists and the share fallback exists, just in case you have this script running globally on pages where the buttons and the fallback might not be there, you don't want this code throwing errors, hence the first little initial check. Now, inside this if statement, we're going to throw a nested if statement, and we're going to check if the navigator has the share feature, just like that. Else. And so this is what happens when the browser has the share feature. This is what happens when the browser doesn't have the share feature. So we'll do the easiest part first, which is to just show the share fallback. .style.display equals block. So that'll show the share fallback when we don't have browser sniffing, when we don't have the navigator share feature. So if we go back to our browser, we should see share this link. It now appears because this browser does not have the native share functionality. However, I do happen to have a browser handy that does. I'm using Android Studio to emulate an Android phone, my Android phone, a Pixel 2, and still showing nothing, but that's okay. It's not showing the share this link. So now what we have to do, as you may have guessed already, is set the share button style dot display equals block. And now if we try that again, now we see the share this button. Doesn't do anything yet, but that's okay. We're going to add that right now. So what we're going to do is we're going to reference the share button again, hence why I created variables for them, because we're referencing them over and over and over. So we're going to add an event listener on click. You could also do touchdown or whatever, press or whatever you might happen to have for your specific app or site or whatever, but we're going to use click because it's easy to remember. So when they click the button, and we're going to call the navigator.share button function, and we're going to pass in a title of share button.get attribute data title, and we're going to give it a URL of share button.get attribute again data URL. And those, oopsies, those are the attributes that we set up here, the data URL and the data title. So that's, again, what you're passing in from your CMS, your blog software, WordPress, Jekyll, which is what I recommend, and whatever you're using. Now, this function is returning a promise, so we can chain the then function to it. I got to remember not to write ES6 functions because I'm trying to keep a lot of these tutorials ES5 friendly, just so they work with older browsers. So then, if the share was successful, we'll just console log share success, and we'll have a catch to catch any errors. Oopsie, see, there I go. Just about to do a ES6 function. Oh, actually, you know what we can do? We can say catch, and we can just pass in console.error. And believe it or not, that's all you need. So let's save it, and we'll check it in the browser again just to confirm. There you go, we're still seeing the link. Now we'll check it in our mobile browser, and this is where the magic happens. So when we hit share this, bum bada bum, there is the share dialog. So if I pass it to, say, Drive or something, copy to clipboard, and if we go over here and take a look at the console, we should see, whenever it decides to load, share success, which was our console log that we threw in the then function. Now you could do all kinds of things with this. You could easily implement something like a little token that says, hey, thanks for sharing, or whatever. But in this case, we're just going to keep it simple, log something in the console, and be done with it. So that was really the meat of this one. Thank you for watching, and as always, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed this content. There is a written version of this tutorial, as I mentioned before, on my website, sarikden.github.io. Links to that in the description. Yeah, take it easy, guys.